Utterly shocked me because it was total independence to total dependence, just on the everyday matters. So, it was really a big shock. It was really a big trauma. Hi, my name is May, and this is my story. I was born in Taiwan and grew up in Australia. When I was a child, we immigrated to Australia. And it was there that I got baptized as a child. But I think that that time was more of a ritual because everybody else was doing it. I felt I had to follow and blend in. Fast forward to the time I got married. I married a non-believer, and as a result, I left God completely. And I pursued all the worldly values, and Korea became top my agenda. And that was almost becoming my idol. I had to do everything possibly I can to press ahead on my career. I joined the World Bank sometime after I got my PhD. So as the lead educator in this institution, my job was to help governments, poor governments, to develop education programs and targeting the most disadvantaged. So this means concretely like building 6,000 schools in Girls for Girls in Pakistan and Balochistan next to Afghanistan where the Taliban are, or training 1 million teachers in China, building 6,000 early childhood centers in Indonesia, or helping governments of Jordan and Egypt to reform their education system. As I went through all these countries and all these programs, I sort of felt really good about myself, to the point that I was so independent, I thought I was in control, and I felt almost like God. So I really depended on myself. After I retired, I came back to Taiwan for retirement, and then my girls have gone overseas to different countries and pursuing their own dreams. And I was with my husband. But soon after, he had a heart attack and passed away. Heart attack actually is a good way to go to the other world quickly. It takes 2 minutes without pain. But what left with me was I was all alone. I was left with the administrative mess and all the legal matters, and alone, depressed, anxious and stressed out. I didn't know what to do, actually. But still, I guess it was really stressful and depressed period. I ended up with a stroke 1.5 years later. This stroke actually left me halfway paralyzed from the waist down. But it was actually caused by spinal cord AVF, which is a malformation of the blood vessel inside the spinal cord, and that's a point where it controls the nervous system that controls both legs. So that's why I was so paralyzed. And this happened overnight. Basically, when I woke up, I can't feel any part of my body below the waist. I can't feel it. It's not. I felt I only have half of my body. I tried to move my toe. Even that was not possible. I used my hands to feel my legs. It was like cotton wool. All of a sudden, all the muscles disappeared. What this means for your everyday living is I cannot perform any of the daily necessities by myself. I needed a caretaker 24/7 to even go to the toilet, or let alone taking a bath and everything. So everything you take for granted, I cannot do. This was so dramatic and so utterly shocked me because it was total independence to total dependence, just on the everyday matters. So, it was really a big shock. It was really a big trauma. But at that time, God came to me and realized I really had to be dependent on someone. And God came to me and told me that I could depend on Him. And I prayed and prayed, Of course, my sister-in-law helped me to pray, to repent to God, to say that, to tell him that I'm so sorry that I left him completely. He taught me that actually I'm not so great. He turned me completely upside down. Actually, I'm not so powerful. In fact, I have no power at all at this point. I was a world traveler. I got off on an airplane 4 times a year and going somewhere far away, like Iran or Egypt or whatever. And all of a sudden I was confined totally to the bed. You know, it just, it was so shocking and so dramatic and so traumatic. I've been questioning God, I've been angry at God. I said, why do you do this to me? The first thing I asked him actually is, look, God, now I have repented, then please take me to heaven right now, because I cannot live in this world like this. And I cannot think of a life just laying there, having someone feed me or have to carry me around just to do most ordinary things. Yeah, I thought that's not life. I want to go to heaven. In fact, I even told my family members, look, I heard there's Switzerland, they can handle this sort of transition manually, and that it'll be quick. I said, look, I have money in the bank, just do this. I know it's expensive, but it's good procedure, do it. Of course, my family member didn't answer that request, neither did God. Because after 4 months of staying in the hospital, I started moving my toes. I can lift my leg an inch. And so I told my friend, hey, here's a major milestone. I can lift my leg. So I'm starting to have some movements. During this period in bed, since I couldn't do anything, I was able to watch TV. I watched good TV every day. Through this process, I was getting more hopeful, and I realized, I should not try to manage my own life, and including termination. If it's God's will, He'll do something very nicely, but I can't do it myself. I just have to listen to God and moving towards dependency on God. I was undergoing physical therapy at the hospital twice a day. Somebody had to carry me to the physical therapy place, and that helped me to build up my muscle one by one. And then I've gone through that, and through different kind of device. There's a walker that it's like this. Started with this, and then turned into a cane with the 4 legs, so 8 legs on the cane, and until they get narrower and narrower. During this time, I came to TIC for the first time about 2.5 years ago. And I came to the church through Felicia, who introduced me to the church. And that time also, she introduced me to the pastor, Pastor Peter, and he prayed for me. I still remember his prayer was to say that God had a plan for me. That was the revelation, as if I have another life, maybe. And especially since I'm still alive by that point, I thought maybe I do have a life and God has a plan. So, and since then there were many prayers, particularly from Pastor Peter and the congregation and the elders. I started from complete paralysis to being able to move a leg, then 2 legs, and being able to stand up with a lot of support, then less and less, and so forth. I realized God is awesome. In what ways is He? During this 3.5 years, many other things happened, actually, which I couldn't dream of. First thing is spiritual, because I really didn't know God much at all. Especially when I left God, I didn't think about God at all, because I was relying on myself. I think I was so powerful. But God taught me that I'm nothing. There's nothing I can do. But in this process, I learned to depend on God. I learned about God's words. The other aspect was the family. And because of COVID, which is terrible for everybody, but my daughter was in Philippines, came back with her husband, and what happened? They had 2 babies. That was my dream for 10 years. That was my dream and my husband's dream. 10 years. But both my daughters didn't get married, and of course no babies and no grandchildren. But all of a sudden, I had 2 babies, 2 grandchildren in one go. So this is definitely a miracle from God. But this is definitely something that it's within my power to do anything about. Absolutely nothing I can do. And the other thing is that through this process, I learned about tithing. That I've learned that my money actually is not my money, it's God's money. So I started doing it, and I feel all of a sudden I felt really financially secure. Really, I just suddenly had that feeling. I felt so peaceful, because this is another aspect of my life that God has given me as I endure this illness. So the illness continues and the pain continues, but many other things happen. In the beginning, all I prayed about was my pain, or the lack of pain. In the very beginning, I prayed to have some feeling. Look, I can't feel anything. I prayed to be able to feel something. But now I pray for the pain to go away. But that's not the only thing I pray about, because my life is so rich now. You have to look at life holistically, and that's what God is about. It's not about, I've gone through that period of pursuing money and power and prestige, status, getting other people to read my books and getting things published. It's all about that. But now I feel like all that is nothing. God is what gives me peace and joy and kind of fullness in life. And I have to look at the life holistically. I have to look at it spiritually, relationship-wise, family-wise, and financial-wise, and then physical. What I want to remind you, if you are in this situation, is that sometimes, if you're very strong, maybe God needs to hit you with a really, really, really heavy hammer to put you into place, knowing how little you are in this universe, in God's universe, in God's kingdom. You're just a little speck of dust. But if you depend on Him and trust Him, then He will bring you life, another life that's fuller and more peaceful. So I think you have to be patient and wait for God's timing. It feels bad, but if you look at God's perspective, He wants to prune you. Whether you like it, He's going to do that. And if you like it, then you feel joy. You can't fight it. So, I expect there will be another episode of this testimony. Stay tuned.